Hey guys, Mike here. So another day, another new all-time high, of course, and I really couldn't figure out what happened at noon, but when noon hit, away the market went, just took off. And of course, you're going to hear the terms melt up, but understand this is going to be a very strange week because not only do we have monthly OPEX this week, which we hit on Friday, Wednesday we're going to be closed. So you got this short week, and normally it's rare for the market to be closed during the middle of the week. Normally you get close on Monday, close on Friday, but so that's going to be interesting to get a break right there in the middle. So expect some, very interesting price action to say the least. And we're going to get into that. And the other thing I keep hearing more than anything is how in the world can the market keep setting all-time highs when the fear and greed index is setting at fear, right? And so we'll go into that as well, and I'll show you what I'm talking about because the fact that we moved up as high as we did today without one of the main drivers of the stock market day was, can be kind of encouraging actually when you think about it. But I know you're sitting there thinking, man, how much higher can this thing go? And remember, the market can remain irrational longer than you can stay solid, right? If you're trying to short this thing, for sure. Now, one piece of data that came out, and then we're going to go into all the stuff I just talked about, is the fact that, consumer sentiment did come out Friday, and, big drop in consumer sentiment. Expectations, all that stuff. One of the main drivers, though, honestly, when you look at this, because you've seen those big drops before, it is the housing market. I mean, it hadn't been this bad. This is actually lower than what it was in the 80s now, okay? So, again, people are upset because the prices are so freaking high that they're having to continue to pay massive amounts of rent because they either can't qualify or just don't want to pay what these insane housing prices are right now. So just, kind of take that with a grain of salt, right? I don't expect to see any great consumer sentiment numbers until maybe that gets resolved. Now, you're looking at the Qs, that's what's driving this market. You see it in this channel. As soon as we broke above that midline, it just took off, and it's almost at the top of that channel right there. It's not too far away. And when we measure it, I mean, that's only like 1.5% off from this right here. And so, again, we were up 1.5% today. There's a big green candle. And what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 green days in a row. And I believe that's 6 new all-time highs, if I'm not mistaken, right there. And when we pull up the RSI and the stochastic RSI on this and stuff, kind of looking at some momentum indicators, things of that nature, we can sit here and see that obviously momentum is surging like crazy. Again, when you're in this kind of move, the overbought stuff don't really mean much because you can stay overbought for a very long time, but it is very, very high up there. And so, are we due for some kind of consolidation and pullback? Yeah, I think everybody would agree, absolutely. Is it going to wait to get to the top of that channel to give us that? That's what we got to find out. But I mean, it's just surging momentum in like the large cap stocks. And today, you actually did have, though, some other stocks coming in. The QQQ was up over 1%. So that means other stocks are actually being pushed up for sure. And then when you go, look at this, you can see on the weekly right here, we're barely in overbought territory. So the stochastic hadn't even quite reached that huge push you usually get right there at the very top. And so could this thing go higher? Sure. I mean, would I love to see a consolidation pullback? Yes. Just kind of make it more structural and sound on this. But you can't, these melt-ups, whatever you want to call them, it's hard to get in front of them because you will get ran over. Now, of course, obviously you can see it's the consensus 2024 EPS, right? And what's at the top? 5 stocks making up 38% of it. The rest of them, they actually revised down the other 495 stocks. And so, S&P sitting at 0. So, again, it ain't like earnings have been crushing or anything like that. But, again, this is all about these mega caps right now. And that's just the way it is until it's not. The S&P, different story. It finally got to close above that midline right there. Big day for the S&P, of course. So, this could continue to push higher for sure. But when you, pull up some momentum indicators on the S&P 500, we'll kind of see something somewhat similar, not as much momentum because it has so many different sectors that just aren't, doing well in this high rate environment that we are in. But you can see, I mean, it has momentum. There's no doubt about it. Remember, those 7 stocks make up like 32% right here of this index as well. So, the weekly hadn't got anywhere near up there to where you really see blast off right there when you've seen in the other big run-ups and stuff. And again, the biggest question you get is, well, how in the world are we sitting in fear when we're all-time highs. It's hard to research this because the normal fear and greed index everybody looks at doesn't go that far back, right? So when we pull it up, you can see we're sitting in fear. We were at 38 this morning when we started the day, moved to 44. But you got to understand, again, what makes up this fear and greed index. And when you start scrolling down, you really understand why, because there's parts of it that are in extreme greed, right? Market momentum. S&P 500 with its 120-day moving average and extreme greed. Okay, so that's something to pay attention to. Again, you scroll down even more and you say, oh, wow, look, extreme fear is the net new 52-week highs and lows. Okay, it's going down. That's not the what direction you want it to go. All right, if you look over there where it says October 2023, you can see it was going up and the stock market was surging like crazy, right? Then, of course, we checked market breadth. We talked about this a million ways from Sunday. It's an extreme fear, right? Is that shocking to anybody? Then you look at put call options. I mean, this thing's an extreme greed. Why? Because everybody's buying calls, right? They're like, yeah, whatever. Don't need any puts. It's all good. And so you look over to the left. What was that? July 2023 at that level, and that's when we sold all. So usually you don't want to see it down there. VIX has just been toast. I mean, it's way down here, right? That's neutral. Safe haven demand, the difference between 20-day stock and bond returns is in fear right now. I don't really look at those too much. Junk bond demands in fear right now. And so, you know, that's why you're seeing when they average all these out in fear, but you see quite a few of the indicators that make it up in extreme greed, right? But when you look over the other indicator that I like to use to have two of them at least, fear and greed index, this one measures how many stocks, what percentage are in an uptrend above their 6-month moving average. We're at 54%, which ain't great. It's basically right in the middle, right? You want to take notes when you get below 25% for fear, above 75% for greed, right? That's really where you look at to see if we're running a top or a bottom. And this thing really does a better job of spotting bottom and tops, that's for sure. But again, we're right in the middle. So we could move, absolutely continue to try to move up. Again, if that breadth starts to surge and come back in and start participating with those larger cap stocks, I mean, absolutely this market's going to move higher. That's just the way it is, right? If it does not, eventually you think those large caps are going to run out of steam. We've seen this before. You know, now in this right here, I showed you this the other day or Saturday, I believe it was, if you didn't watch that video. But this is like 8 of the top biggest 10 stocks, right, in the SPY and the QQQ for that matter. But you can see, I mean, just look at this. Since May 2nd right there, it's actually up 28%. Look at that. 28% those 8 stocks. And they have such heavy weights. They're just climbing. And it's like a big wall, right? It's like a big side of a cliff, what you're looking at right here. And then when you pull up the QQEW, you equal weighted ETF, you pull up the QQQ, you know, it's obvious what's pushing still. And that don't mean it's not going to change, right? If it wants to continue to go higher, it's going to have to change. And you saw QQEW have a big day today, but it's only at 5%. In the same time frame, those 8 stocks are up 28 with the kind of weight they have. All right, and what was crazy about today was, this actually sometimes can be a good sign if you're a bull, is when you look at NVIDIA. NVIDIA was red on the day, man. NVIDIA didn't do nothing. Tesla had a big day, so it started coming back to life. Right now, that one's starting to get pulled in. Microsoft goes for an all-time new high. Apple, not quite all-time new high. But the others were green, but the fact that NVIDIA didn't participate and you still had a big day, sometimes that means things can span out. Now, of course, what else had all-time highs today? Well, MU, Taiwan Semiconductors, and Qualcomm. So other semiconductors are doing this as well. And what's funny, as a side note, this is a visualization of NVIDIA and how crazy this move has been, right? So it took 16 years to 10x, go from 3 billion to 30 billion. Then it took 4 years to 10x from 30 billion to 300 billion. But it only took 4 years again to 10x from 300 billion to 3 trillion. And I believe it added $1 trillion of market cap. I believe it was from January to, what was it, June, I believe, or something like that. So that's kind of, I don't know if I've ever seen a stock do that before, to be honest with you. Let me know if you can think of a stock that's added $1 trillion in that short amount of time. But again, Amazon, watch out for this one, right? If it starts to get moving again, if it can get through the previous all-time highs, which it was rejected at, that is resistance. Again, this one can take off. When we start trying to pull this down, where can we go? Probably head to the top of the channel. All right, if this gets going, there's one reason for this, I'll show you. But, you know, sitting around 206 right there. And one thing about this one is, and you can see that channel, it's rode it up, come down, hit it again, hit the bottom of the channel, right? And so, but one reason for this is July, which we'll get into a couple weeks, is one of the top months for Amazon. You know, it's like November is number 1, March, and then there's July, right there with March, and right below November. And so if that one can get going and it breaks the previous all-time highs, sets it as support again, starts moving, and it can join the rest of its brethren, right, on moving these all-time highs, that's a good thing for the market as well, you know. Now, IWM surprised me because it started off red, down big time, and then, of course, what happened? Ends up taking off at lunchtime like most of these ETFs and stocks did. And in fact, it closed above 200 is good, but if it can get above 202, that'll be in positive gamma territory. I'll talk about that more in Saturday's video when I put that out what that means. But normally you'll see stocks start to move even better, right? Because calls start paying nicely. Now, what surprised me about it was the 10-year, right? The 10-year was up over, at one point in time, 1.5%. And again, IWM was down, which I expected. But then it just turned and started going right along. The 10-year started kind of trailing off a little bit. But the 10-year gets going, that again can create problems because it's bouncing off the bottom of that channel from that fair value gap, which we talked about a week ago. Now, Tesla, big day, as I mentioned. Obviously, this one got going, got above that year-to-date anchor VWAPs. Only the third time it's actually got above and closed above that. It's failed the last 2 times. Will tomorrow be any different? We stay above it. Again, you know, looking at that, we should. And we talked about, you know, everybody's kind of expecting this big move. Well, that was a nice big move today, that's for sure. And if it can go up, look for 193, 194 right there, that trend line right there, which is rejected 5 times so far, to be your next target and, of course, resistance and stuff. If it breaks through that, though, whoo boy, you know, then you can definitely have a killer move. So a lot of people are calling for 200. But again, it has to hold the year-to-date anchor VWAP. We've been above it before, and it has sold right back off the next day. And with this being a weird week, I'm thinking how we're going to move with, you know, monthly OPEX and the short week and all this stuff. Just pay close attention to that one right there. Again, this is a bullish day for sure. And I think closing like right above that 187 area was super bullish as well. Now, looking at Palantir, another big one. It's kind of strange what stocks were up and what stocks were down. Like DraftKings was up massively. Couldn't find any news on that one either. Palantir, Tesla's up, but a whole bunch of others were just red as can be. But this one broke above that trend line right there. Again, it's going to run into huge resistance right here. Around the 25, 30 area right there, as you can see. If it can make it through that, oh, it's going to like 27 easy. No problem. But we just got to see if we can get through that, or we're going to have to come back down, retest that trend line, same way Tesla kind of did in a way, right? And then break out to the upside. So we got to see what's going on there. And if anybody can figure out why DraftKings went so crazy, let me know. I looked everywhere. I couldn't find it. Just curious. Now, as far as earnings, KB Homes will report tomorrow. And then tomorrow we also have core retail sales month over month for sure, which the market will care about. Because if you didn't notice, either information was leaked, but the retailers like Walmart, Target, all of them, Dollar Tree, were all really green today. And so I definitely want to see what was going on with retail sales for sure. And I even tried looking to see what the news was at 12 that just sent the market going during lunch, right, on the, at least in my time zone, the Eastern time zone. But, you know, I didn't really see anything that would have had that happen, but, you know, there was no kind of red folder news, anything like that. So, again, I don't know if you found anything on that, but, you know, just be careful this week because it's, again, I guess as, Jim Cameron said, it's going to be the summer of opposites, whatever you think is going to happen, you know, the opposite is going to happen. So I think a lot of people have been waiting on a pullback, and you get this explosive move, right? And so, you know, let me know what you think about that. So anyway, hope you guys got some out of it. Hit the like, subscribe button on your way out as usual. I really appreciate all you guys watching and stuff. Feel free to sign up for the membership. Less than a McDonald's combo if you like that right there. Give you a morning news brief every morning, 2 private videos, and we got a Discord. So anyway, hope you guys have a good one, and I'll see you tomorrow.